Hey, Miss Lancaster here. Just another one of our quick videos. This is regarding chapter 10 in our social problems textbook, which is regarding the work and economy. Uh, while we look at and consider the work and the employment, in the institution of employment and work in the institution of economy, it's kind of important to recognize how intertwined and interconnected that they are. Our place within the economic structure is a result of the work that we do, but it can also place us in certain types of jobs. So it is very important to kind of recognize that. While we're thinking about it, we also have to recognize that there is typically a love-hate relationship with work and the economy. It is a major part of our lives, and work actually places us in that economic structure. All members of society will be involved within the economic and work environment in some way, right? Those institutions. And sometimes the structure itself can be problematic, not only just for society, but for individuals as a whole. Some key terms that are related to work and economy that some of you are probably familiar with, but may not fully understand would be salary and wages, benefits and compensation, and labor force. So these terms are ones that are defined pretty early in the chapter, and they're pretty important. But the difference between salary and wages really has to do with payment in relationship to hours, right? Or whether you're whether it's connected to the hours worked or not. Benefits, of course, are then your non-compensation, things such as insurance, health insurance and pension plans, and things like that. And then compensation as a whole is your combination of benefits and salary or wages. Now, we go a little bit into the labor force. Understanding what makes up the labor force is pretty important because it then impacts the way that we look at unemployment, which is one of the first social problems that everybody thinks about when they think about work in the economy. So there are three sectors, technically, of the labor force. The labor force is really anybody who is non-institutionalized, a civilian. So not participating in some sort of institution, which could be the military, could be in relationship to being a prisoner, an inmate, right? Active duty military prisoners, an inmate, anybody who may be institutionalized in any way, they do not count in the labor force, but the labor force is anybody 16 and older who is able to work, right? For that reason. So non-institutionalized people are 16 and older, not inmates, not active duty, okay? The labor force has three sectors. There's the primary sector, the secondary sector, and then what we refer to as the tertiary or service sector. Primary sector is farming and mining. Secondary is kind of construction and manufacturing. And then third would be service, right? Anything that would be service related. So this includes healthcare, educational, financial institutions, hospitality, fast food, all of those things, retail, right? That is all part of the service sector. So these changes in the sectors are the types of jobs that exist, are from one throughout history, right? They've evolved and changed. And when we also think about this, we have to think about white collar and blue collar jobs. There are the difference between those oftentimes relate sometimes to what we would even looking at the differences in whether it's a salary or a wage type job too. These are just terms that I want you to think about while you're reading through the chapter. Your book also talks about the underground economy. These are individuals who are not working in legitimate work. They're kind of off the books, would probably not be counted as part of, well, would not be counted as part of the labor force just because of the type of work that they're doing. Then there's gig or temporary type of jobs, employment at will, contingent workers, right? These are all terms that I feel like your textbook defines well, so there shouldn't be any problem. Bringing us back to like, let's talk about specific problems within work and economy. So key ones to think about is the top one that most of us will consider one of the biggest problems is unemployment. And what I want you to do is really kind of recognize how unemployment is calculated. That's an important thing of understanding by definition, unemployment clearly is defined the absence of work for a large period of time. But it's really important to kind of recognize how we calculate unemployment. Unemployment is calculated, the number is dividing the number of jobless people looking for work, right? They have to be looking for work by the individuals in the labor force. Okay, so you have to be actively looking for work to be considered unemployed. Okay, there are terms such as underemployed, discouraged workers, anybody who is not actively looking for work, right? These are things that could potentially make problems with the way that we calculate it. When we think about an underemployed person, this is somebody who's working part-time, but they really want to be working full-time. They are part of the labor force, so their number is there, but they're still underemployed. Okay, so we're kind of losing that number if we're only looking at employed. There are individuals who retire earlier, go back to school. They're not looking for work, right? That's going to impact the labor force number. Discouraged workers, these are individuals who have stopped looking for work altogether. They're not working and they're not looking for work. So they're not counted in the unemployment numbers. Okay, so just kind of thinking about that, how the way we calculate these numbers could be potentially problematic in getting us a good idea. If our unemployment number is going down, but our discouraged worker number is going up, that may be the reason why our unemployment number is going down. People have stopped looking for work. So you have to really, when you're looking at all of these statistics and things, you have to really kind of understand all of it, right? To get a really good glimpse of what's going on. There is a significant number of people who are underemployed. There are a significant number of people who have possibly been discouraged at times and have stopped looking for work. Those numbers do impact what we see as a big scheme of what really is unemployment. So unemployment, of course, there are various issues in relationship to unemployment and how it impacts, but it is probably ultimately the largest problem that we would think about in relationship to both work and economy, because it really is the interconnections of it. So when we think about unemployment, the consequences of it are innumerable, right? So different segments of the labor force may be impacted differently. There are different types of unemployment. There is cyclical unemployment. There is structural unemployment. There's frictional. We don't really care too much about frictional unemployment because that's like the unemployment when people choose to leave a job. There's not a whole, there are people who do that, but that's not a significant number. Cyclical unemployment are periods of typically periods of weak economic growth where there are episodes, can be short-lived, doesn't feel short-lived when you lose a job. But these are the type of things that could potentially be lessened by assistance, like unemployment assistance and things like that. Structural unemployment is joblessness in relationship to large structural changes. So when we're shifting from different types of work that's out there, so kind of like even like the shift of sectors, right? That can lead to unemployment. So changes in technology where we could see histories of, as technology changes took place, different types of factory type jobs and things like that, that can lead to unemployment when larger segments of our social world, right, are altered. We could even look at like the dot-com boom of like the 90s, right, that where there were lots of new jobs in that sort of technology. If that went away, there would be a loss, right? So those are shifts that take place. Thinking about other problems, workplace discrimination, we've discussed that in some other aspects of our chapters so far this semester. So just kind of coming back to that, job satisfaction or the lack of satisfaction, that is another thing that this textbook addresses, and then it really kind of gets into the theories. While looking at the theories, I really want you to take into consideration what each of them are saying. Functionalism, of course, conflict, and symbolic interactionism all give us a basic understanding of our social world differently in relationship to work, right? Functionalism, of course, is going to talk about the structure and the functions of everything within society, that different jobs have different reasons to be paid differently and different situations, and that we have to motivate individuals. Conflict theory, of course, is going to address the inequalities that are built into our structure of our workforce, right? This chapter really focuses on C. Wright Mills' work in relationship to conflict theory. So just kind of really thinking about the interlinks of different aspects of society, different institutional areas of society, that the power elite and how they kind of come together to kind of influence both work and economy. Symbolic interactionism, again, is going to bring us into the symbols that are connected right with work, and the meanings that we've attached to work. So then we can really kind of think about even some of the prestige levels and instances like that. The specialized theories, of course, are Weber's theory of bureaucracy. We're all involved. We live in an organized society. So that really kind of means that we're all exposed to bureaucracy in a lot of ways. So the bureaucratic structure of society, the division of labor, the type of jobs that we have, that is something to really kind of take into consideration in society. The rationalization of society, the efficiency that's a piece of bureaucracy is important, because not only does it affect the workplace, the jobs that we have, but it also affects our economy. And then the last specialized theory that is discussed is scientific management. That really is about the theory is Frederick Taylor's, and its fundamental assumption is that both workers and traditional managers have overall failed to develop the most efficient production methods, right? So it is really about trying to figure out the most productive, right? So production. Capitalism is about making gaining the biggest profit, right? And the way you would gain the biggest profit is to be the most efficient, right? So both Weber's work and Taylor's work really are kind of focusing on the idea of efficiency and efficiency in relationship to work and the economy. It all kind of makes sense. So that's really all I have to kind of get you focused this chapter. Make sure that you get in there, get your Vantage assignments done, and then kind of take a look at the application assignment. Maybe a little challenging, but not too bad. So let me know if you have any questions, and I hope you have a great day.